Chapter 2946. Ji Feitong's heart was filled with disdain. Originally, Luo Qingtong was still somewhat useful in his heart. He felt that he could use her to attack Ji Feiyu. However, it was obvious that she and Ji Feiyu were not the same. He was too lazy to waste any more effort on her. Who knew why an unknown girl from the 9-star region would hook up with Ji Feiyu? She even had to scheme to get close to a piece of trash. Who knew how desperate she was for him to eat? Or rather, how ambitious was she? How eager was she to achieve instant benefits? Ji Feitong snorted in disdain as he thought about it. He had seen many women like Luo Qingtong. She used Ji Feiyu's ladder to get close to them and then spoke rudely to arouse their interest. Loosening the reins only to grasp them better? Unfortunately, they were tired of this kind of trick. However, the other party was not bad looking. It would be good if he could play with her for free. As Ji Feitong thought about it, he looked at Luo Qingtong with a lewd and frivolous look in his eyes. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked at Ji Feitong and instantly laughed. Was he having ideas about her? Not bad. It seemed that this time at the family Ji would not be boring. There were always a few idiots who came to court death. It was also a kind of fun, wasn't it? As Luo Qingtong thought about it, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. It was indescribably evil and charming. Ji Feitong's heart skipped a beat when he saw it. Oh my god, I didn't realize that the woman that piece of trash Ji Feiyu brought back was a stunner. Ji Feitong's heart was itching. He was already restless, thinking about how to hook up with Luo Qingtong. If it didn't work, then he would use force. Would Ji Feiyu deal with him because of a woman? Of course, it didn't matter even if he did. What could a piece of trash like him do to him? He couldn't be a threat at all. It was impossible for the family to help Ji Feiyu. As Ji Feitong thought of this, he instantly felt a burst of pride. The way he looked at Luo Qingtong became even more wretched. Behind Luo Qingtong, Yen Yang clearly saw his gaze and instantly sneered in her heart. How dare the other party have designs on her master? She was simply courting death. She looked at Chu Tianyi, who was beside her, and said, "When you arrive at the family Ji, remember to protect master well." Originally, there was no need for Yen Yang to instruct this matter. Generally, the people around Luo Qingtong would do this. However, Chu Tianyi was temporarily sold to Luo Qingtong. Moreover, the reason why she sold herself was related to her. She was not sincerely working for Luo Qingtong. Yen Yang was worried that his carelessness would cause Luo Qingtong to encounter danger. After all, Luo Qingtong's strength was only at the Sage Master realm. She didn't know that Luo Qingtong's strength had already risen to the peak of the Purple Venerable realm. This was to make it easier for her to advance in the future. Moreover, in order to confuse the black fog behind Mo Zhuling, she deliberately suppressed her strength and didn't recover. Otherwise, with Luo Qingtong's strength, Ji Feitong wouldn't even dare to covet her. Even when he spoke, he would have to be respectful in front of Luo Qingtong. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's true strength was far beyond the 9th level of the Purple Venerable realm. When Yen Yang spoke, Chu Tianyi glanced at her and said, "What identity are you using to speak to me?" As he spoke, he didn't wait for Yen Yang to speak and continued to speak. "If you speak as my wife, then whatever you say is what it is." Chapter 2947. You. The moment Chu Tianyi's words left his mouth, Yen Yang felt a burst of anger. How could this man be so shameless? Why did she think that he was gentle, humorous, honest and considerate? Why did she think that he was someone she could spend the rest of her life with? Now, it seemed that he had made a mistake back then. Yen Yang was furious. She gritted her teeth and said, "Don't forget that you sold yourself to the master." "Yes, so I just need to make sure that she doesn't die?" Chu Tianyi raised his eyebrows and looked at her. He didn't think that he was wrong to take advantage of her. During this period of time, he knew that Yen Yang was stubborn and unyielding. If she decided on something, even 10 horses couldn't pull her back. Therefore, if he wanted to win her back, he had to use some means. And this means was Luo Qingtong's safety. In fact, Chu Tianyi knew clearly that Luo Qingtong's strength was not as weak as it seemed. Otherwise, she wouldn't let them stay in Star Alliance while she went back to Family Ji with Ji Feiyu. Chu Tianyi didn't believe that Luo Qingtong didn't know the possible danger of this trip. Therefore, she must have a way to deal with it. Yan Yang was just too concerned about her, so she was confused. However, even if Chu Tianyi knew this, he wouldn't tell Yan Yang. Otherwise, she wouldn't let him get close to her. Once Luo Qingtong finished what she wanted him to do, he didn't know if she would continue to stay by his side. Therefore, Chu Tianyi had to plan for himself. Speaking of which, he was helpless. As the overlord of Tianfeng region, he could only rely on threats to make the woman beside him listen to him. Not only that, she was very angry and didn't want to have anything to do with him. If people knew about it, they would be shocked. But he was defeated by this woman. What could he do? Chu Tianyi still remembered the scene when he was thrown into the dilapidated temple. Yan Yang was obviously scared to death and wanted to turn around and run away, but when she saw his body covered in blood, she couldn't bear to do so. She turned around and bandaged his wounds. It was because of her kindness that Chu Tianyi was able to survive. It was also because of her kindness that the medicinal effects that Chu Tianyi had been painstakingly suppressing went out of control after she touched him, pushing her to the ground and forcing himself on her. If it wasn't for that, Yan Yang would be fine. Because Chu Tianyi was still conscious at that time, he could still suppress the drug in his body. He didn't want to become a beast. Therefore, if Yan Yang had immediately left at that time, Chu Tianyi would have died from his serious injuries and being drugged, but Yan Yang would definitely have been fine. But Yan Yang's kindness saved him. Was life's body. Chu Tianyi's heart throbbed and he felt guilty. That day, in front of him, Yan Yang was like a holy goddess, blooming breathtakingly. For so many years, Chu Tianyi didn't forget her for a moment. Instead, because of her departure, she was still fresh in his mind. Therefore, he wanted to keep her by his side even if he had to do it by hook or by crook. When Chu Tianyi said that, Yan Yang was even angrier. Chapter 29:48. She was extremely depressed in her heart. She wanted to curse Chu Tianyi, but after tossing and turning, other than that shameless word, she couldn't say anything else. In fact, when she heard the word madam, her heart skipped a beat. Chu Tianyi didn't know that she had really considered marrying Lin Yi. After Luo Qingtong brought back the news about Chu Lingfeng, she had already decided that after meeting Chu Lingfeng and asking for his opinion, she would tell Lin Yi everything and see if he would accept her. Who would have thought that before she could meet Chu Lingfeng, Chu Tianyi's identity was exposed? Yan Yang didn't know how to face him. The person she was attracted to and the person she hated were the same person. How could she accept this? When Yan Yang spoke, Chu Tianyi's heart was filled with joy. Because Yan Yang's words meant that he could call her madam. He was finally one step closer to her. Although this step was a result of his meticulous planning, he was still very happy. Okay, don't worry, I will stay by her side. Of course, you have to stay by my side too, madam. As Chu Tianyi said this, he looked deeply at Yan Yang. Yan Yang turned her head and ignored him, but her heart was in turmoil. She wasn't as indifferent as she looked. Lin Yi and Chu Tianyi, these two people faintly overlapped with each other, making Yan Yang's heart uncontrollably flustered. When Yan Yang and Chu Tianyi were talking in a low voice, Ji Fighting had already ordered Ji Feitong to apologize to Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. No matter what, Ji Feiyu had the identity of a legitimate son. They could be disrespectful to him in private, but there was no need to do so in front of outsiders. Why leave a weakness for the other party to use against him? In any case, Ji Feiyu's status as the son of the first wife wouldn't last for long. When the time came, they would have plenty of opportunities to deal with him. Why should they be in such a hurry? Therefore, Ji Fighting very generously apologized to Luo Qingtong, saying that he didn't think it through, and asked his subordinates to immediately go to Star Alliance to investigate the annulment of the engagement. In fact, wasn't it up to him to decide how to investigate this matter and how long it would take? So what if Luo Qingtong planned for Ji Feiyu? Wasn't he still unable to defeat him? Ji Fighting's expression was indifferent. He sneered in his heart. He didn't take Luo Qingtong's words seriously at all. Luo Qingtong also saw the sarcasm in his eyes and naturally knew what the other party was thinking. However, she had just spoken because she couldn't stand the hypocritical behavior of these fake immortals. She deliberately exposed this matter so as to dampen their spirit. As for whether Ji Fighting would send people to investigate, what the results would be, and when he would reply, she didn't consider it at all. After all, there was a saying, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. If these people from the family Ji really wanted to deal with Ji Feiyu and her, they would do it for any reason. It didn't matter whether they investigated or not. Therefore, she smiled and didn't care at all. Under Ji Fighting's scolding, Ji Feitong also apologized to Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. He coveted Luo Qingtong, so he didn't reject apologizing to her. On the contrary, when he apologized to Ji Feiyu, he felt very dissatisfied and perfunctory. Ji Feiyu couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. In this matter, the one who was implicated the most was Luo Qingtong. As long as the other party apologized to Luo Qingtong, he couldn't be bothered with anything else. The group of people continued on their way to the family Ji. Chapter 2949. In the family Ji, a group of people was waiting in the ancestral hall. Father. A very pretty and cute girl stood beside the head of the family Ji and said to him, Ji Feiyu has embarrassed us so much this time. You can't tolerate him because he's the son of the first wife. Otherwise, what will happen to our family Ji's reputation? As Ji Miao Miao said this, she glanced at the middle-aged man beside the head of the family Ji. The middle-aged man's expression was ugly. He looked at her and said in a low voice, is definitely not someone who would disregard the family for personal affairs. The middle-aged man's left arm was obviously seriously injured. It could only hang by his side, looking very uncoordinated. His originally tall and sturdy figure had also become much shorter and hunched because of the existence of this arm. This middle-aged man was Ji Feiyu's father, the original successor of the family Ji, Ji Yuancheng. Originally, he should have been the head of the family Ji at this moment. But now, he could only sit in the upper left corner. Moreover, he was here because the family Ji wanted to hold a grand ancestral hall meeting with Ji Feiyu. Otherwise, he would not even have the opportunity to sit at the front. Sitting beside him was Ji Feiyu's mother. The latter's face was very noble and generous. He sat upright beside Ji Yuancheng. Even the mistress of the family, the wife of the head of the Ji family, was suppressed. After all, Ji Feiyu's mother was not an ordinary person. She had married into the family Ji's family from another galaxy. She was the daughter of the first wife of that family. Originally, she could have married an ordinary son of the 7-star field. However, she had taken a fancy to Ji Yuancheng and married into the family despite the family's objections. It was because of her that Ji Feiyu and his son could live so well without the strength and status of a direct descendant. At this moment, she looked at the family Ji and said, "That's right. It's best that you don't wantonly slander things that haven't been investigated." Ji Miao Miao couldn't help but chuckle. Then, she said, "Auntie Li, don't blame me for being rude." Qin Xiong and the others came back and explained everything clearly. They even provided a portrait of that woman. You still say that this is not the truth? Could it be that you want to say that Qin Xiong and the others are so stupid to make up such a lie that can be easily broken to deal with my eldest cousin brother? Are they out of their minds? In fact, it wasn't that Qin Xiong and the others had lost their minds. They simply didn't think that Ji Feiyu and the others would be able to leave the wedding banquet alive, let alone reverse the situation and ruin Mo Zhuling's reputation. Who would have thought that a trash like Ji Feiyu would be able to rely on Luo Qingtong's ability to turn the tables? They didn't even dare to dream about it. Therefore, when they went back, they naturally and scrupulously slandered and discredited Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu to get away with it. At this moment, when they heard Ji Miao Miao's voice, although they felt guilty, they still said firmly, "That's right. Miss Miao Miao is right. We can't say such a lie that can be easily broken. Young Master Feiyu did fall in love with that girl called Luo Xiaoqi. That's why the Star Alliance's eldest daughter broke off the engagement. This is absolutely true. If the family head and elders don't believe us, you can go to the Star Alliance to check." Chapter 2950. What's more, so what if they went for an inspection? Would Mo Zhuling's people say that she was shameless and had seduced young Master Lu of the 7-star field, which was why she broke off the engagement with Ji Feiyu? That was impossible. Therefore, they looked very certain. When their voices sounded, Li Shi's expression also relaxed a little. She absolutely believed that her son would not be so careless. But what if he really met the girl he liked and did everything he could to be with her? But the girl he met on the way, how coincidental would it be for Ji Feiyu to fall in love with her, and when he went to ask for her hand in marriage, he loved her so much? Li Shi was worried. She was not afraid that Ji Feiyu would be punished by the family, but she was afraid that he would be deceived by others. That girl might have been deliberately arranged by someone to wait for him there. And Feiyu was completely unaware. In the future, he might be sad and hurt. As Li Shi thought of this, her heart suddenly throbbed with an indescribable pain, and her eyes turned slightly red. At this moment, Ji Yuanqing's hand grabbed hers and gently patted and comforted her. "It's okay. When the time comes, we will leave the family Ji. I think that after we leave, no one will come to deal with us anymore." As Ji Yuanqing said this, his eyes were slightly red. He was a dignified man, but at this moment, he actually had the urge to cry. He tried his best to hold it in, not revealing any clues. But his heart was extremely sour. He had been so high-spirited all his life. Even when he suddenly met with an unexpected disaster and lost his position as the head of the family and only had the name of a direct descendant, he had never given up on it. But this time, he was tired. Ji Feiyu had been ridiculed since he was young. As a father, he could not give him anything. The identity of a direct descendant and the power of the head of the family, he had nothing. And Ji Feiyu had been humiliated and ridiculed because of his identity as a direct descendant. If he wasn't his son, even if he was a trash who couldn't cultivate, he wouldn't have suffered so much slander and humiliation, right? Even now, when Ji Feiyu had been pushed out to marry Mo Zhuling, there were still people who wanted to harm him. Ji Yuanqing was really tired. For the sake of his status as a direct descendant, he had persevered and worked hard for a long time. He refused to believe that he could only live like this for the rest of his life. But as it turned out, that was exactly what he was. Lost strength could never be regained. No matter how talented he was in the past, no matter how glorious his family Ji's descendants were, they could not hide the fact that they had fallen. As Ji Yuanqing thought this, his heart was filled with exhaustion. Hearing his voice, Li Shi's heart immediately felt even more bitter. She held Ji Yuanqing's hand and said in a low and bitter voice, "Okay, when the time comes, we'll leave together and never care about the family Ji again." Just as they were talking, there was a commotion outside. It was Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and Ji fighting. Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others walked through the door of the family Ji together. Yan Nyang and Chu Tianyi walked behind her. The two of them were side by side. With Yan Nyang holding the white jade zither in her hand, she looked like Luo Qingtong's servant girl. Chu Tianyi's aura was also deeply restrained and not revealed. Chapter 2951. Ji Feitong didn't take them seriously at all. When Luo Qingtong and others entered the family Ji, he pretended to approach her by accident and whispered in her ear, "Luo Xiaoqi." Ji Feitong licked his lips. When he got close to Luo Qingtong, he found that this woman was a feast for the eyes. She had a unique aura, which was as noble and unpretentious as a saintess, but also as evil and charming as a demon god. These two different auras were entangled in Luo Qingtong, which was as attractive as a poppy. Ji Feitong thought to himself, no wonder Ji Feiyu is so protective of this woman. She does have a little capital. But she was so stupid to go back to the family G with Ji Feiyu. Did she want to help him prove that it was not his fault that the engagement was broken off this time? Unfortunately, the family Ji might not believe it. What was more, Ji Feiyu's father, the head of the family Ji, Ji Yuankuan, had been waiting to deal with Ji Feiyu and his father. But they hadn't found a chance. This time, such a good opportunity came to them. How could they let it go? Ji Feiyu was destined to not be able to escape from this matter. Not only that, Luo Qingtong, who came with him and was involved in this matter, would also be the target of the family Ji's anger. At that time, she would end up miserable. With that thought in mind, he said to Luo Qingtong frivolously and arrogantly, "Luo Xiaoqi, how about being my woman and following me? As long as you are with me, I'll make sure you'll be safe in the family Ji. You probably don't know that Ji Feiyu can't escape this disaster. The head of the family Ji and brother fighting have been waiting to deal with him for a long time. No matter what the reason is, it won't affect the family's punishment on him. And you, the suspected culprit, will be greatly angered. If you are with me, I'll beg brother fighting and ask them to give you to me. What do you think?" As he spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong up and down lustfully. Luo Qingtong was crossing the threshold of the family Ji behind Ji Feiyu and the others. Hearing his words, she smiled and looked at him. "Be your woman? I'm afraid you're not qualified. It's better if you let me be your mistress. Then, you'll be the lowest slave. Maybe I'll consider it." As she spoke, she moved closer to Ji Feitong. She breathed. Ji Feiyu's eyes when she was close to him. Yet, Luo Qingtong's words were like a ladle of water, drenching him in the heart. Not only that, but he was also extremely furious. "You!" When he was about to shout angrily, Ji Feiyu, who noticed the movement behind him, rushed to Luo Qingtong and blocked him, saying coldly, "Ji Feiyu, what are you doing?" His voice was cold. After Sueyu and the others arrived, they were ready to fight. Humph. Looking at Ji Feiyu and the others, Ji Feiyu swallowed the anger and resentment in his heart. Then he looked at Luo Qingtong coldly and sneered, "What are you doing?" "Of course I'm reminding Luo Xiaoqi. Miss Luo, our family Ji is not a place where you can come and go as you please." Chapter 2952. As Ji Feitong spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong with an extremely cold gaze. This B***TCH really didn't know how to appreciate favors. She refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. In that case, don't blame me for being impolite. Let's see how she will kneel and beg me then. With that thought, he immediately snorted coldly and strode forward. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu looked at Luo Qingtong worriedly and asked, "Little Seven, are you all right?" He blamed himself in his heart. He was just about to go back to the family Ji. He was worried about his parents and unconsciously walked faster. He forgot that Luo Qingtong was still behind him. Otherwise, Ji Feitong wouldn't have had the chance to get close to Luo Qingtong. "I'm fine." Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and chuckled. She meaningfully put away a medicine bottle in her sleeve. The information revealed by Ji Feitong was quite interesting. Ji Fighting's father, the head of the family Ji. Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Feiyu and the others walking in front of her and asked Ji Feiyu, "Is Ji Fighting the person who replaced your position as the young master?" "Yes," Ji Feiyu nodded. His tone was a little difficult. He looked at Luo Qingtong and didn't know why she asked this. He was the legitimate son of the family Ji, but his status in the family Ji was actually lower than that of the collateral family members. He only had the title of being the legitimate son of the family Ji. In fact, it didn't live up to the name at all. The young master of the family Ji was Ji Fighting. He announced to the public that he had no choice but to occupy this position, so he wouldn't address others as the young master. But in fact, who didn't know that he was the young master of the family Ji? It didn't matter if Ji Fighting wanted this title or not. But with this title, it was difficult for him to move forward. Ji Feiyu's status in the family Ji was awkward. No one knew about it. Every day, he faced the slander of the family Ji and outsiders. Everyone said that Ji Fighting was tolerant and magnanimous. Ji Yuankun knew his place. They said that he didn't know his place because he was the legitimate son. But this was not what he wanted at all. Ji Fighting and his sons stepped on him and his father's name to climb up the ladder, but they didn't forget to make them be despised. Ji Feiyu didn't know what he and his father had done wrong to be treated like this by Ji Fighting and his son. If they snatched everything he had, he wouldn't say anything. After all, the winner was the kings and the losers. But why did Ji Fighting and his father want outsiders to think that they were oppressed when they had everything? Did they think G's, G to G's G and G's to 2's? As Ji Feiyu thought about it, the light in his eyes became obscure. On the surface, Ji Fighting respected him in every way and earned a good reputation. But in private, if it weren't for him and Ji Yuankuan's instructions, why would Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's life in the family Ji be so difficult? This wasn't tolerance. This was hypocrisy and pretentiousness. They were fishing for fame. However, Ji Feiyu couldn't expose them. For the sake of his parents, he could only endure it. Okay, I understand. Luo Qingtong nodded and didn't look at Ji Fighting and the others anymore. It was fine as long as she understood who the main enemy was. Luo Qingtong didn't want to waste her limited time on people who didn't matter. Since Ji Fighting was the young master of the family Ji, Ji Feiyu's illness might have something to do with him. Luo Qingtong's thinking was very simple. There was no love, hatred, and hostility in this world for no reason. Chapter 2953. The first thing that Luo Qingtong needed to investigate was Ji Fighting and the others. But it didn't matter. There was no rush. She needed to get over Ji Feiyu's current hurdle first. She had to clear this green tea bitch's name from the inside out. Luo Qingtong thought as she continued to walk with Ji Feiyu and the others. Yan Nyang's face was red. She followed behind Luo Qingtong and kept struggling. Beside her was Chu Tianyi, who was tightly hugging her and imprisoning her. Lin Yi, you bastard! Yan Nyang roared in a low voice. She was still used to calling Chu Tianyi Lin Yi. At this moment, she was struggling furiously in Chu Tianyi's arms. Why don't you let me teach that trash Ji Feitong a lesson? She gritted her teeth and shouted at Chu Tianyi. When Ji Feitong spoke to Luo Qingtong just now, she wanted to take action. An ignorant piece of trash actually dared to covet her master. How dare he ask her master to be his woman? Yan Nyang's face was filled with anger, but Chu Tianyi's face was extremely calm. Not only that, Yan Nyang's struggling and biting were useless to him. He was even happy that she was in his arms. But of course, he couldn't let Yan Nyang know about this. He said to Yan Nyang calmly, of course, I don't want you to ruin master's plan. Chu Tianyi followed Yan Nyang and called Luo Qingtong master. He had no choice. The contract was in her hands. What's more, Chu Tianyi found that Yan Nyang valued Luo Qingtong very much. No matter how many good words he said to her, she turned a blind eye. After calling Luo Qingtong master, she immediately looked at him seriously. In order to get his wife, Chu Tianyi could only risk it all. So be it if you're shameless. With that thought in mind, he continued, Master obviously came to the family Ji for another purpose. Otherwise, he could have just brought Ji Feiyu back to the family Ji. Why did he have to go through so much trouble and come back alone with Ji Feiyu? Don't act rashly and ruin Master's plans. Yan Nyang was taken aback by his words, but she quickly calmed down. Let go, she said coldly to Chu Tianyi. Then, she snorted and said, You're really happy calling me master. Let me tell you, you've only sold your body for a year. You're not qualified to call me master. So who was the one who complained that he wasn't loyal enough? However, Chu Tianyi would never take the blame for Yan Nyang. He even immediately seized the opportunity and said, Well, as long as Madam is willing, I will sell myself for as many years as you want. Your husband, as he spoke, he looked at Yan Nyang meaningfully and said, I will listen to you. Shameless. Yen Yang glared fiercely at Chu Tianyi. Then, she took her white jade zither and ran away. Looking at her leaving figure, Chu Tianyi chuckled. Then, he slowly followed behind her and walked into the depths of the family Ji. He liked this kind of life very much. He had never seen Yen Yang like this, nor did he have the delusion to see her like this. She was angry and angry in front of him. Did it mean that she was no longer indifferent to him? As Chu Tianyi thought about it, he suddenly felt that selling himself to Luo Qingtong was the best choice he had ever made. It gave him a sense of accomplishment and excitement more than destroying the competing forces in the Tianfeng region. Chapter 2954. When Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others entered the family Ji, the family Ji's people immediately came forward to bring Ji Feiyu to the ancestral hall. These people didn't know that Ji Feiyu and the others came back by themselves. They thought that Ji fighting had brought them back. They were originally going to use the method of escorting them, but they were all sent flying by Sueyu and the others. Let's see who dares to touch our young master. They looked angrily at the family Ji's guards who rushed forward. Ji fighting looked at them and immediately frowned. Then, he asked the family Ji's people to leave. I'm sorry, cousin. I've frightened you. This is my negligence. I didn't expect them to be so disrespectful to you. Don't worry. I'll explain it to my father later. He smiled at Ji Feiyu. Then, he scolded the family Ji's people and left. Luo Qingtong looked at them and immediately smiled. She said slowly, it was indeed too negligent. Young master fighting, as the future heir of the family Ji, don't you even have this little bit of means to control your subordinates? I think those people from the 9-star region don't even dare to fart if the heir of the family doesn't say anything. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Ji fighting's method of buying people's hearts was not bad. First, he let those people offend Ji Feiyu. When Ji Feiyu's people attacked, he would come out to help them out and apologize. After that, he would apologize to the family Ji's people who were scolded by him. At that time, he would be the good guy and the bad guy, and he would still curry favor with both sides. Whether Ji Feiyu and the others were willing or not, they would have to accept his favor. And those who were scolded by Ji Feiyu would also hate Ji Feiyu and the others. Instead, they would think of his kindness. TSK, TSK, TSK. This method was brilliant. No wonder Ji Feiyu's expression was so subtle when he mentioned Ji fighting. The other party's scheming methods were quite skillful. Ji Feiyu and the rest were treated as his stepping stones, and there was no way to reason with them. Otherwise, he would end up with a reputation of not knowing what was good for him. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, the smile on her face became even sweeter. When Luo Qingtong spoke, Ji Feiyu's expression changed drastically. He didn't know whether Luo Qingtong's words were coincidental or not, but they hit the nail on the head. His original intention was to use Ji Feiyu and the others as a raft to buy people's hearts. However, Luo Qingtong saw through the crux of the matter at a glance. She actually used the excuse of lax management to block him. That's right, Ji fighting's behavior just now seemed to be magnanimous, but if one looked carefully, it seemed that he didn't even have the ability to restrain these people. Otherwise, why didn't he reprimand those people before they attacked Ji Feiyu? Was it because he didn't want to scold him, or was it because he couldn't? Ji fighting would never admit to the first possibility. His gentle, humble, courteous, and friendly image as the heir of the family must not be destroyed. Thus, he could only acquiesce to the second possibility. However, for a family heir to be lax in managing his subordinates, this was a very serious matter to outsiders. Because this meant that the other party was gentle but not bold enough to support the entire family. The faint smile and sense of superiority on Ji fighting's face froze. He had always been high and mighty in front of Ji Feiyu. However, at this moment, he was at a disadvantage in front of Ji Feiyu because of Luo Qingtong's words. Chapter 2955. Eldest brother, why are you still here? Why don't you go into the ancestral hall? Father and the others are getting impatient from waiting. Ji Miao Miao appeared in front of Luo Qingtong and the others with a group of family Ji's guards. At this time, Luo Qingtong and the others had already entered the family Ji's ancestral hall while talking. They happened to bump into each other at the entrance. Luo Qingtong immediately raised her eyebrows and looked at the arrogant and gorgeous Ji Miao Miao. After the latter came out, she walked straight to Ji Fighting and the others with her guards. She didn't even look at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. She only glanced at them when they were mentioned. I heard from the guards who just came back that Ji Feiyu wanted to defy orders and didn't want to return to the family Ji's ancestral hall. When Ji Miao Miao mentioned Ji Feiyu, she didn't care and didn't show any respect for him. She was Ji Yuankuan's only daughter, the real family Ji's precious daughter who grew up with great care. So what if she was disrespectful to Ji Feiyu, the son of the first wife? In the entire family Ji, except for Ji Fighting, who had to set himself up for outsiders to see, who really cared about Ji Feiyu and his son, the so-called direct descendants? The Ji family of today was no longer the glorious Ji family of the past, which had produced many talented people and was no longer the Ji family of the past. Now, the collateral branch of the family Ji was in charge. Moreover, it was when Ji Feiyu's father's strength was almost crippled. The elders of the Ji family begged the Ji family to let their father take over the position. Under such circumstances, who would dare to do anything to her? Ji Fighting needed to put on an act, but she didn't. When she heard her words, Luo Qingtong immediately chuckled. She looked at Ji Fighting and said, "Young master of the family Ji is really scheming. It seems that not only can you not control your servants, you can't even control your own sister. Then you don't have to put on an act in front of us. We all know that the young master of the family Ji is you. Young master of the family Ji doesn't need to put on an act. Sometimes, you overdo it, just like," at this point, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up. Then, she looked at Ji Fighting and the rest and said slowly, "Just like fools." When she said this, Ji Miao Miao, who did not know what had happened, looked at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Who do you think you are? How dare you call my brother a fool?" Her voice was cold. However, the moment she spoke, Luo Qingtong's smile became even more gorgeous and enchanting. She chuckled and said to Ji Miao Miao, "I'm talking about people who cover up too much. That's strange. Young master of the family Ji, you're the one who put on the act. Are you blaming me for not being able to say that? If I say that there's a puddle of dog poop by the roadside, are you going to say that you pooped it?" The smile on her lips was devilish. Ji Feiyu and the others thought that she would have a conflict with Ji Miao Miao and the others. They didn't expect her to say such a thing. Instantly, the people who rushed over to protect her slipped. Sueyu and the others, especially, almost fell to the ground. Pfft. Chapter 2956. Even Ji Feiyu couldn't help but smirk at her words. He looked at Luo Qingtong with sparkling eyes. In other people's eyes, Luo Qingtong's behavior might be arrogant and vulgar, but in Ji Feiyu's eyes, it was indescribably cute. After all, it wasn't the first time that Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao had stepped on his head and humiliated him while pretending to be magnanimous to apologize. Every time Ji Miao Miao spoke ill of him, Ji Fighting would come forward to apologize at the right time, saying that he didn't teach his sister well. Ji Miao Miao was still young, so Ji Feiyu shouldn't lower himself to her level. But in reality, Ji Miao Miao had already passed her coming-of-age ceremony. She was still young. Not to mention, every time Ji Fighting would only apologize after he was humiliated and offended. At the same time, he would ask the people who humiliated and offended him to leave. On the surface, it was a reprimand, but in reality, there was no punishment at all. Ji Feiyu suffered humiliation and drew hatred, but the one who benefited in the end was Ji Fighting. Ji Fighting had seen enough of him being wantonly humiliated and offended, so he came out to smooth things over and let people praise his good reputation. And Ji Feiyu and the others had no choice but to accept his kindness. There were even a few times when Sueyu and the others couldn't help but attack, but they were reprimanded by Ji Fighting. If it weren't for Ji Feiyu's vigilance, Sueyu and the others might have been killed by Ji fighting at that time. Ji Feiyu lived like walking on thin ice in his family Ji, but he had to endure for the sake of his parents. Now that he saw the two of them being humiliated by Luo Qingtong and their fake faces falling out, he felt really happy. He stood there and looked at Luo Qingtong with a smile on his lips. When Ji Miao Miao heard Luo Qingtong's words, she was stunned at first. Then, her face suddenly darkened. She looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold expression and shouted angrily, "Bastard, how dare you call me a dog?" Because Ji Miao Miao had learned her lesson from Luo Qingtong's counterattack, she didn't say it out loud. Otherwise, in Luo Qingtong's mouth, she would be the one who made the connection. This bitch was actually so scheming. Ji Miao Miao gritted her teeth. That breath was stuck in her throat. She didn't know if she should go up or down. She felt a burst of panic in her heart. She swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She then sneered at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Good. All right." She sneered as she sized up Luo Qingtong. Then, she said to Ji Feiyu, "Eldest cousin, the person you brought back this time is amazing. Is she your lover, Luo Xiaoqi?" The fox spirit that Qin Xiong and the others were talking about. Ji Miao Miao's eyes were filled with malice as she spoke. She looked at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "I didn't expect you to be so powerful. No wonder you could seduce my eldest cousin to death for you. He even abandoned his engagement with Mo Zhuling. Why? Did you come here this time to strike while the iron is hot, directly become my eldest cousin's wife, and officially move into our family Ji? You've got a good plan. Why don't you take a look and see if you have the fate to bear it?" Ji Miao Miao's voice was cold. Her words had a double meaning. She was very disdainful and sneering at Luo Qingtong. From her point of view, Luo Qingtong had done everything possible to be with Ji Feiyu and even ruined his engagement with Mo Zhuling. She had seduced him so much that he was willing to do anything for her. He even brought her to the family Ji. Didn't he just want to move into the family Ji? Chapter 2957. Ji Feiyu's figure flashed to Luo Qingtong's side. He looked at Ji Miao Miao coldly and said, "Show some respect, Ji Miao Miao. She's not my lover, nor is she a vixen." Ji Feiyu's heart was filled with anger. If Ji Fighting and his sister wanted to do anything, they could just come at him. What was the point of dragging Luo Qingtong into this? They always targeted the people around him. In the past, it was Sueyu and the others. Now, it was Luo Qingtong. How could they be so insidious and shameless? While Ji Feiyu's heart was filled with anger, Ji Miao Miao looked at his protective posture and immediately sneered. "Ha!" She looked at Ji Feiyu with a chuckle and said viciously, "Eldest cousin, you're already so protective of her. How dare you say that she's not your lover?" Oh, Auntie Li and the others said the same thing inside. They said that you would never disregard the family's reputation for a private affair. But now that you've brought her back, I'm sure they have nothing else to say. Otherwise, they'll say that we're using our power to control the family Ji to oppress you. In fact, we're doing this for your own good. After all, she had a wicked smile on her face as she said to Ji Feiyu, "Eldest cousin, you're just a piece of trash. If you don't have the tempering of the family's fickleness, how can you withstand the invasion of those outside rumors? We're doing this for your sake, eldest cousin. Unfortunately, you and Auntie Li seem to have let us down." As Ji Miao Miao said this, the smile on her face became even more malicious. At this moment, she was stepping on Ji Feiyu's sore spot and ruthlessly crushing it. Didn't he care a lot about the woman in front of him? He couldn't wait to come out and protect her. Unfortunately, what was the use of a good-for-nothing like him coming out? If it weren't for the fact that her father and brother still needed a legitimate reason to abolish the family Ji's direct line of descent and give them a chance to take over the family, she would have already ordered people to arrest them. A bunch of ignorant people. Ji Feiyu was stupid, and that woman called Luo Xiaoqi was also stupid. Did she really think that she would be able to find a good place just because she hooked up with Ji Feiyu? She even dared to follow him back to the family Ji and stood around in front of him. Ji Miao Miao sneered. Ji Feiyu's face also turned slightly pale, not because Ji Miao Miao had stepped on his sore spot, but because he heard her say that his parents were also here. So, because of him, father and mother were still implicated in the end? Ji Feiyu's heartache could already imagine how much ridicule and humiliation Ji Yuansheng and Li Shui had experienced after being called to the family Ji. Originally, his body couldn't cultivate, which had already brought them a lot of criticism and trouble. For so many years, Ji Yuansheng and Li Shui had been running around outside for the sake of his body. If it wasn't necessary, Ji Feiyu absolutely didn't want them to worry about him. Therefore, he had always suffered in the family Ji in silence and didn't allow Suiyu and the others to inform Ji Yuansheng and the others. But now, the fact that his engagement was broken off still alarmed them. Chapter 2958. That was where the ancestral tablets of the family Ji were placed. At the same time, it was also the place where the family Ji's people usually organized ancestral worship. Ji Yuansheng and the rest of the family Ji's people should be there. When he turned to leave, Ji Miao Miao thought that he was provoked by her words, so he did not even dare to answer and hurriedly rushed to the main courtyard of the ancestral hall. Pfft! She sneered and said carelessly, "Don't you think it's too late to plead with father and the others now?" She looked indescribably proud. Her hibiscus-like face was full of harshness and viciousness. After saying these words, she looked at Luo Qingtong and said indifferently, "Luo Xiaoqi, right? I advise you to hurry up and kneel with Ji Feiyu. Maybe you can beg my father to let you go. Otherwise. TSK TSK. She looked at Luo Qingtong and then suddenly sneered. Then she looked at Ji Fighting and said, "Brother, let's go. Father and the others are still waiting for us. There's no need to waste time on some dubious people who we don't even know if they're dead or alive." Her words instantly degraded Luo Qingtong into the mud. So what if she was eloquent? So what if she was scheming? So what if she saw through their insincerity and hypocrisy towards Ji Feiyu? This was their family Ji. She was just a girl from a low-level star region who came from nowhere, but she dared to be presumptuous in front of her. Did she really think that she was invincible just because she had a sharp tongue and Ji Feiyu's protection? Unfortunately, Ji Feiyu, the son of the first wife, could not even keep his position in the family Ji. Not to mention her. As Ji Miao Miao said this, she glanced at Luo Qingtong with a very satisfied and noble expression and then walked to the main courtyard of the ancestral hall with Ji Fighting. Behind them, Ji Feitong glanced at Luo Qingtong with a sneer and also left. This woman didn't know what was good for her. When they arrived at the main courtyard of the ancestral hall, she would suffer a lot. At that time, even if she knelt in front of him and begged him, he would not accept her. Who gave her the courage to talk back to Ji Miao Miao when she came from a low-level 9-star starfield? It was simply stupid beyond compare. Ji Feitong felt that even if he was mesmerized by her beauty, he would never fall for her again. He couldn't afford such a woman. Only that trash, Ji Feiyu, would be blind enough to take a fancy to her and protect her wholeheartedly. He wouldn't let anyone touch her. With this thought in mind, he immediately strode towards the main courtyard of the family Ji hall. He didn't even spare a glance at Luo Qingtong. The latter's expression was indifferent. After they left, the corners of his lips curled up. Then, she looked at Yan Nyang and Chu Tianyi, who had just arrived, and said, "Let's go in too. Let's see what kind of drama is going on inside." As she said this, she leisurely walked towards the main courtyard of the family Ji hall with Yan Nyang and Chu Tianyi. After Ji Feiyu entered the main hall of the main courtyard, he immediately saw Ji Yuansheng, who was sitting on Ji Yuankuan's left. His eyes instantly reddened. At this moment, Ji Yuansheng and Li Shui also saw him and immediately stood up. Their voices were choked with joy and surprise. Chapter 2959. For nearly 5 years, Ji Yuansheng and Li Shui had been running around outside. For the sake of Ji Feiyu's health, they went around looking for doctors and medicine, looking for all kinds of rare treasures, just so that Ji Feiyu could cultivate again. Ji Yuanqing's health was not very good, so once the couple went out, they rarely came back. Or rather, it was inconvenient for them to come out. Therefore, when they saw their son, whom they had not seen for 5 years, their expressions were a little emotional. Ji Yuankuan, who was beside them, snorted coldly, then looked at an elder beside him. The latter understood and immediately stood up and said to Ji Feiyu, do you know your crime? As soon as he said that, Ji Yuanqing and Li Shi's exposed emotions suddenly disappeared. They looked at the elder who spoke. Ji Yuanqing said in a deep voice, Elder Dai, the matter has not been investigated clearly. What right do you have to convict you? As soon as he said that, Ji Miao Miao's voice came from the entrance of the hall. What is there to investigate clearly? Uncle, you don't know, but eldest cousin brother brought everyone back. He's behind us now. He'll come over later. This time, eldest cousin brother has done a great deed for our family Ji. Your direct line of descent will be able to continue very soon. I have to congratulate eldest cousin brother for bringing home the beauty. As she said that, she immediately walked in from the entrance of the hall with Ji fighting. The latter's expression was refined and polite. After entering the hall, he nodded and bowed to the elders present. Ji Miao Miao could be arrogant and disrespectful, but he, the future heir of the family Ji, could not. When their figures walked in, the expressions of the family Ji's elders immediately became gentle. Fighting, Miao Miao, you're back? Elder Dai, who spoke, looked at the two of them and said amiably. Then, when he looked at Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu, the expression on his face became much colder. Ji Yuanqing, did you hear that? Isn't Miao Miao's words clear enough? Ji Feiyu even brought people back, and you still dare to say that he didn't do this? Humph. Instead of trying to defend him, you'd better think about how to explain this matter to your ancestors properly. Elder Dai's expression was cold and disdainful. Since your generation, your direct line of descent has been very disappointing. So many people, no one could break through to the venerable realm. Not only that, but your strength regressed after breaking through. In the end, you even heavily injured your left arm, and it can no longer be healed. That's fine, but when it comes to Ji Feiyu, he'll be another piece of trash. How many people have you been ridiculed? Now, we're asking him to fulfill his family's promise. Does he feel that it's a waste for him to marry the daughter of an aristocratic family from a 9-star region? Why doesn't he look at his own strength? Could it be that he wants to marry the legitimate daughter of an aristocratic family from the Dongting region? It's a pity that even the legitimate daughter of an ordinary aristocratic family wouldn't like him. Elder Dai's expression was cold. In the end, he became more and more impolite, and he directly degraded Ji Feiyu to the bottom of the mud. In his opinion, it was already good enough for the family to let Ji Feiyu marry the daughter of an aristocratic family from a 9-star region. With Ji Feiyu's useless physique that could not cultivate, in the Dongting region, he could only find a commoner girl to be with him. Chapter 2960. When his voice rang out, Ji Yuanqing's face was also livid with anger. He looked at Elder Dai and the others and said coldly, our direct descendants are disappointing. But for so many years, if it weren't for our direct descendants who established this family Ji, you wouldn't be able to yell at us here. My son, who he likes, it's up to him to decide. When the family asked him to propose back then, didn't they not inform me? You used my son as a scapegoat. Now that his engagement has been broken off and he has suffered all kinds of humiliation, he has come all the way back, and you only care about holding him accountable. Alright, since you insist on bickering, then I'll ask you. This engagement, who set it up in the first place? Does it have anything to do with our? Why should he go and ask for her hand? I didn't speak before, and you all treated me as a cripple. Since that's the case, then I'll open my mouth today. Whoever set up the engagement should go and propose. Today, I will definitely avenge the humiliation my son suffered. You want us to explain in front of our ancestors? Fine. Ji Yuanqing's life, will end here. My son has embarrassed the family Ji. We are willing to plead guilty and accept punishment. But the person who set the engagement, pushed my son out to propose, and humiliated the family today, should he also come out to receive punishment? Who pushed my son out? All of you, King, stand out. Ji Yuanqing's eyes were blood red. With a thud, a long saber was stabbed into the mud by him. Although his left arm was crippled and his strength hadn't improved at all, and he couldn't compare to the other branch family members of the same age, he wasn't a complete cripple. His strength was amazing back then, and he was many times stronger than the direct descendants of the family in the entire Dongting region. To put it bluntly, the current head of the family Ji Yuankuan, was not even qualified to carry a saber for him back then. Now that he had encountered an unexpected disaster, his personality had changed a lot. However, the hot-bloodedness of the past was still present. Now that this elder Dai had belittled Ji Feiyu both openly and covertly, his hot-bloodedness erupted in an instant. As soon as he spoke, Elder Dai and the others were stunned. Indeed, the current Ji Yuanqing did not even have the qualifications to be on equal footing with them. However, no one had forgotten how high-spirited Ji Yuanqing was back then. In front of him, all of them had to bow their heads. They didn't even have the chance to look up at him. If it weren't for the fact that Ji Yuanqing encountered a huge change in his cultivation later on, causing his cultivation to stagnate. Even now, they still had to kneel in front of him and respectfully call him family head. Now that they saw him fly into a rage, everyone immediately recalled Ji Yuanqing's appearance back then. Immediately, they were unable to recover from their shock. Meanwhile, Elder Dai's face was flushed red. Not for anything else, but when Ji Feiyu went to marry Mo Zhuling back then, he was the one who jumped out the most. It could be said that Ji Feiyu's engagement to Mo Zhuling was completely pushed by him. And he did so naturally under Ji Yuankuan's instructions. Ji Feiyu's situation was actually not as bad as he had said. Even in the Dongting region, there were many direct descendants of the aristocratic families who wanted to marry him. Chapter 2961. But how could Ji Yuankuan allow Ji Feiyu to have contact with the aristocratic families of the Dongting region? Not even some small, inconspicuous aristocratic families. Not to mention the branch families of those high-ranking aristocratic families. Because if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to make a move against Ji Feiyu and the others. That was why he had set up a good show to make Ji Feiyu work for the family and marry Mo Zhuling. Otherwise, how could the Alliance Master of the Star Alliance, who was just a 9-star domain's Alliance Master, be able to form a marriage alliance with the Ji family whenever he wanted? Did their family Ji have no way to do anything? This was simply a joke. When Ji Yuanqing's voice rang out, the faces of the family Ji elders flushed red. This was because when they had decided to let Ji Feiyu marry Mo Zhuling, they had all agreed. It could be said that they had a part in Ji Yuanqing's words. At that moment, an elder flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "It doesn't matter how this engagement was set in the first place. Ji Feiyu agreed to the family's request, so he should fulfill it. Otherwise, why would he have agreed to it in the first place?" As soon as he said this, he remembered that they hadn't given Ji Feiyu the right to refuse at that time and had only informed him of the matter. Immediately, his face turned a little green and then a little white. However, in the end, he still stubbornly endured and said shamelessly, "Anyway, Ji Feiyu didn't explicitly refuse at that time, so it means that he agreed. In that case, now that the engagement has been broken off, it's his responsibility. How can you blame us? Ji Yuanqing, you didn't teach your son well, yet you blame us for giving him a chance to contribute to the family. As a father, you really don't know what you're doing." As soon as he said this, Ji Yuanqing's face became even more furious. At that moment, Ji Feiyu's voice rang out. "Elder, you're right. This is indeed my fault. I shouldn't have cared about the kindness that the family Ji has taught me all these years. I shouldn't have done nothing for the family Ji after taking up so many resources from the family Ji. I shouldn't have thought that my parents would need your help when they needed it, so I didn't reject you immediately. It's my fault. I'm leaving the clan now. From now on, I have nothing to do with the family G. Regardless of whether it is mockery or ridicule, humiliation or trampling, I will bear it all alone. I will no longer let you all be humiliated. Please approve. Ji Feiyu's heart was filled with indescribable ridicule and exhaustion. This was a member of their family Ji. After his engagement was annulled and he was summoned back from afar, the first thing he did was not to ask for the reason, but to convict him. He would rather listen to Qin Xiong, who had betrayed his master, than spend time listening to his explanation. They were so aggressive, what else could he say? Naturally, he would do as they wished. The only thing Ji Feiyu's heart ached was that he had persevered for so long in the family Ji, but in the end, he still did not reduce the pressure on his parents. He still made them run around, work hard, and worry for him. In the end, he still made them experience belittling and slandering because of him. Ji Feiyu could not hold it in anymore. Why didn't he reject the engagement with Mo Zhuling back then? Did the family Ji give him the right to refuse? They only told him that he should marry Mo Zhuling. Chapter 2962. But for so many years, everything he ate, wore, and used, including the resources he worked hard to cultivate, were all given to him by his parents. It had nothing to do with the family Ji. But even if he knew this, Ji Feiyu couldn't expose the family's words and expose this lie. Because Ji Yuanqing and Li Shi were running around outside, if they encountered danger, he still needed the family to rescue them and give them a helping hand. Therefore, he couldn't fall out with the family and could only silently bear it. But now, in this elder's words, it was as if he had asked for it himself. The family had given him a great kindness, but he didn't cherish it. Didn't they know the truth? Ji Feiyu didn't want to say anything anymore. He stood there, his posture straight. Please punish me, family head. He looked at Ji Yuankuan and said in a low voice. He didn't want to argue with anyone anymore. As soon as he said that, the expressions of all the elders turned ugly. Ji Feiyu's words were even more humiliating than Ji Yuanqing's. He clearly admitted that it was his fault. But listening to his words, every word was full of hidden meanings. Family Ji's kindness to him? What kindness? Family Ji didn't worry about Ji Feiyu's food, clothing, housing, and transportation at all. He was left to fend for himself. And they didn't even know where to start talking about resources. Ji Feiyu was a good-for-nothing. What kind of cultivation resources did he need? He didn't have any at all, okay? And all the efforts made to allow him to cultivate were all thanks to Ji Yuanqing and the others. This was something that could be found out with a casual investigation. As for the last sentence, it made them feel even more guilty. After all, Ji Feiyu and his wife were running around outside, and they actually needed Ji Feiyu to use himself as the price to marry Mo Zhuling in exchange for their help. From this, it could be seen how much they disregarded the other party's family. If it weren't for today's ancestral hall meeting, other than family Ji's people, no other family would participate at all. It was likely that Ji Feiyu's words would cause an uproar among the crowd. Who would have thought that the background of the Ji family was so filthy and ugly? In the face of Ji Feiyu's words, everyone was inexplicably speechless. At this moment, Ji Yuanqing's voice rang out. I will follow my son and be exterminated from the clan. From now on, our family Ji's direct descendants will have nothing to do with you. This family Ji, you can do whatever you want. Let's go. As he spoke, he pulled Ji Feiyu and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, Ji Miao Miao's voice sounded. Wait. Uncle, are you leaving just like that? Ji Feiyu tarnished our family Ji's reputation and family values because of his love affair. Do you think that you can easily erase it by saying that you're willing to be expelled from the family and shirk your responsibility? Isn't this a little too optimistic? My father is benevolent, but I can't stand seeing you bully them like this. If you want to be expelled from the family, that's fine. Let out your blood and return your bloodline completely to the family Ji, and we'll let you go. As she spoke, she suddenly walked out from Ji Feiyu's side and raised her head to look at Ji Feiyu and the others with a mocking expression. Pfft, to be expelled from the family? They wanted to leave the family Ji so easily? How could that be possible? It was more likely that they would leave behind half their lives and all their strength. When that time came, they would lose their status as direct descendants, and without the family Ji and strength to protect them, how long could they survive outside? There were many people in Dongting region who wanted to hit them when they were down. Chapter 2963. When she spoke, Ji Yuansheng and Ji Feiyu's expressions changed. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice slowly rang out. Miss Miao Miao, your words are very strange. She smiled. You sound so confident, as if you went to the Star Wilderness with them and saw how Ji Feiyu's engagement was broken off. As soon as Luo Qingtong spoke, everyone in the main courtyard of the ancestral hall looked at her. Who are you? Ji Yuankuan didn't speak before, but when he saw Luo Qingtong coming in from the ancestral hall, he immediately frowned. The Ji family's ancestral hall was an important place. How could anyone casually enter? Are those people guarding outside all dead? As soon as he spoke, Ji Miao Miao sneered and said, Father, this is the Luo Xiaoqi that Qin Xiong and the others talked about. The woman who bewitched Ji Feiyu and caused him to break off the engagement, making our family Ji a laughingstock. As soon as she spoke, Ji Yuankuan and the family Ji elders frowned. Ji Feiyu's cold voice rang out at this moment. Shut up. Ji Miao Miao, I've told you many times. She has nothing to do with my engagement being broken off. This matter has been confirmed by Ji Feitong and Ji Fighting. Don't talk nonsense. As soon as he spoke, Ji Miao Miao immediately laughed. Ji Feiyu, don't try to explain yourself to her. If you really have nothing to do with her, why are you so angry? Do you think we're all blind? As soon as she spoke, Ji Feiyu immediately became angry. I don't want to talk to you anymore. As he spoke, he took a deep breath and turned to Ji Feitong and Ji Fighting. When you were at the border of the Dongting region, you made it very clear, didn't you? Between me and her, there really isn't any love between us. Mo Zhuling broke off the engagement with me not because of her. That's right. Ji Fighting had a smile on his face. He looked at Ji Feiyu and nodded with a smile. That's what eldest cousin said, but, as he said this, he suddenly chuckled and said, I don't know whether this is true or not. After all, the investigation results haven't come back yet. That was right. In fact, Ji Feiyu had always had this idea, which was to make Ji Feiyu unable to defend himself. So what if the other party's engagement was broken off because of Luo Qingtong? What was important was what they said. If they say Ji Feiyu is, then he is. Ji Feiyu's face turned livid with anger as soon as Ji Fighting spoke. He pointed at Ji Fighting and said coldly, You were sure that I was telling the truth? Yes. Ji Fighting chuckled. I absolutely believe that what eldest cousin said is true. However, whether the elders believe it or not is not something I can decide. Ji Fighting was extremely scheming as he secretly changed the topic. At that time, he did know that Ji Feiyu was telling the truth. However, after he said this, it became Ji Feiyu forcing him to believe that he was telling the truth. In fact, he didn't mean this. As soon as he said this, Ji Feiyu gritted his teeth. He finally knew that no matter what, Ji Fighting and the others would not let him and his father walk out of the family Ji unscathed. These people, they. Chapter 2964. Young Master Ji, are you sure you're telling the truth? Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Fighting with a smile. The latter looked back at her with a polite expression. I'm sure I'm telling the truth. I wonder what Miss Xiaoqi means by asking this. Although I admire Miss Xiaoqi's courage to love and hate, and her attitude of going back to the family Ji with my cousin to face reality. But what I see is what I hear is what I believe. Speaking against my will goes against my will. I'm sorry, but I can't do as Miss Xiaoqi wishes. Sui Yu, Yan Niang, and the others' expressions changed immediately after Ji Fighting said this. This Ji Fighting is really shameless. He's obviously saying that Master said something to him in order to make him keep the secret. In other people's ears, it's as if Master once tempted him to help Ji Feiyu talk to her. Isn't this disgusting and despising Master? This Ji Fighting is as disgusting and hateful as his sister Ji Miao Miao. Yan Nyang's eyes were red with anger, as if they were about to spit fire. Sui Yu and the others were even more furious. They gritted their teeth and looked at Ji Fighting and the others. These people were just like Ji Miao Miao, trying every means to deal with their young master and Xiao Qi. Sui Yu and the others had no doubt that even if they brought back witnesses and evidence, Ji Fighting and the others would be able to turn black into white and ignore the evidence. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Sure enough, their young master couldn't escape this time. It was a pity that even Xiao Qi was implicated. Everyone was sad in their hearts. They naturally wanted to live and die with their young master. But Xiao Qi could have avoided it completely. She wanted to clarify the truth for her young master, but she didn't know that the family Ji people didn't want to hear any explanation at all. They only wanted to attack their young master. They were the ones who harmed her. Even if she could cure their young master's problem of not being able to cultivate, they should have tried their best to stop her from coming. After all, their young master hadn't completely improved his strength and hadn't completely solved his problem of not being able to cultivate. He wasn't strong enough to fight against the family Ji people. Even if the fact that he could cultivate was exposed, it wouldn't stop the family Ji people from attacking them. Instead, it would agitate Ji Yuankuan and the others, making them no longer care about etiquette, justice, integrity, and honor, to destroy the last hope of the family Ji's descendants. Everyone felt their hearts filled with grief and indignation. But in her heart, Ji Fighting and the others. She knew from the beginning that Ji Fighting and the others would have such plans and actions, so she was not in a hurry. After all, since she didn't stop Ji Fighting and the others from having such thoughts, it meant that she had enough ability to deal with it. At that time, let's see who would be the victim of their own cleverness. Master, you've mastered Ji Feiyu, your master. I wonder if Master Ji Feiyu dares to swear in front of you that you're telling the truth. Ji Feiyu and I didn't prove our innocence in front of you. Ji Fighting's eyes narrowed when he heard her words. He didn't know why, but he felt that the woman beside Ji Feiyu was a bit strange. Chapter 2965. If not for Ji Miao Miao's arrival, relieving him of the pressure and attracting everyone's attention. At that time, the doubts about him were enough to make people doubt his ability and character. Now, this woman was speaking up against him. Did she have any way to prove her and Ji Feiyu's innocence? But how could that be possible? The family Ji was now under their control. Even if the final result was that Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu did not have any affair and that the annulment of the engagement had nothing to do with them, so what? As long as they insisted that it was not true, it would be useless no matter how much evidence they had. Make him swear? So what if he swore? He had said before that he did believe Ji Feiyu's words, but that did not mean that his words were necessarily true. Thinking of this, Ji Fighting immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I can swear to God that I don't know whether this is true or not, but I personally want to believe cousin. But cousin doesn't have any evidence to prove his innocence. Isn't that so? How can we believe you just based on your side of the story? Especially when Miss Xiaoqi came all the way to the family Ji. It's hard for us and the elders to believe that you don't have an affair." As Ji Fighting said this, his words were completely watertight. He could become the invisible young master of the family Ji not only because of his ability. His scheming ability was also top-notch. At this moment, the elders of the family Ji nodded repeatedly. They were even more disgusted by Luo Qingtong's aggressiveness. She had clearly bewitched and lured Ji Fighting to speak up for her but failed. Now, she was pressing him step by step. As the young master of the family Ji, Ji Fighting was naturally gentle, humble, and polite. Although he did not directly reject her out of politeness, he still adhered to his principles. He was determined not to be tempted by the other party to lie. This was really good. With that thought in mind, everyone admired Ji fighting even more. This was how the young master of the family Ji should act and behave. Ji fighting was becoming more and more outstanding. They were really lucky to be in charge of the family Ji. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu was not only a good-for-nothing, but he was also infatuated with this aggressive, shameless, and ambitious woman. The elders of the family Ji did not think that Luo Qingtong came back with Ji Feiyu to clarify her and Ji Feiyu's innocence. In their opinion, the other party clearly wanted to whitewash her and Luo Qingtong, then take the opportunity to become Ji's wife and become a member of the family Ji. To be so diligent, it was really shameful. A woman from a low-level 9-star domain could only use such a move, right? Luo Qingtong's disdainful eyes as the other elders of the family Ji. Everyone looked disgusted. Some of them even berated Luo Qingtong and the others and asked them to leave the family Ji immediately. This was not a place where they could behave atrociously and speak freely. They were not welcome here. As for Ji Feiyu's engagement being broken off, they would naturally pursue the matter with her after they dealt with Ji Feiyu and the others. Ji Miao Miao gloated and felt pleased when she saw the elders' anger. Chapter 2966. Luo Qingtong glanced at her but didn't say anything. Instead, she looked at the family Ji elders and said, "I can prove that Ji Feiyu is innocent. However, I want Ji fighting to make a new oath. When we were at the edge of the Dongting region, we once proposed to prove our innocence. At that time, it was very convenient to travel between the Dongting region and the Star Wilderness region, but Ji fighting refused. He even said that he absolutely trusted us. Now he's saying that it's just a one-sided story. I want to know, what's his motive? If Ji fighting dares to swear that when he said that, he had no selfish motives or calculations, I'll admit that I have an affair with Ji Feiyu. If you want to kill me or cut me up, it's up to the family Ji." As for Ji Feiyu and the others, Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Feiyu. The latter didn't say anything. He just said with a resolute and decisive expression, "I'll also be at the disposal of the family. It's up to you to extract my meridians and let my blood out, cut my flesh and return my bones." As soon as she said that, everyone's eyes immediately focused on Ji fighting. The latter frowned slightly as he looked at Luo Qingtong. He felt that this woman was indeed very difficult to deal with. Why did she always choose to open her mouth at the most crucial moment? Usually, when others encountered such a trap, they would only feel that it was impossible to defend themselves. However, the other party quickly found the most crucial point from his words. Every time she opened her mouth, she killed his soldiers. Originally, if Luo Qingtong opened her mouth from somewhere else, no matter what she said, Ji fighting would have a corresponding explanation to ensure that his words sounded flawless on the surface. However, every word and sentence pointed directly to the fact that Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu did indeed have an affair. At that time, he was absolutely not afraid to confront Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. However, at this time, Luo Qingtong avoided other points and only focused on whether he had an ulterior motive. Ji fighting really didn't dare to say that he didn't. Immediately, his face darkened. Lady Shao Qi is really good at reading people's minds. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said indifferently, "Everyone has their own selfish motives. Eldest cousin and I belong to two different branches, although we are not enemies. But if you say that there is no selfishness between us, then I really can't do it." When he said that, Luo Qingtong immediately smiled. This Ji fighting was quite interesting. This move of retreating in order to advance was well used. First, he said that everyone had selfish motives. Then, he said that he had selfish motives, but he didn't want to hurt Ji Feiyu. In this way, he refuted Luo Qingtong's words that made him swear. She also made everyone think that Luo Qingtong was scheming and deliberately set up a language trap to make Ji fighting swear to frame him. Sure enough, after hearing Ji fighting's words, the family Ji's elders looked at Luo Qingtong with even more disgust. This woman is really scheming and vicious. I can guarantee that she definitely got close to Ji Feiyu on purpose so that Mo Zhuling would break off the engagement and she could climb up the social ladder. Look at her aura, she's only at the Sage Master realm. She's simply trash. Isn't that right? She's probably at the bottom of the 9-star domain. I really don't know which small family she's from. When she saw that Ji Feiyu and Mo Zhuling were engaged and that he couldn't cultivate, she took the opportunity to climb up the social ladder. Chapter 2967. Everyone was talking about it. Yan Nyang's face was red with anger as she listened. How shameless were these people? Did their master want to climb up the social ladder because of their family Ji's status and strength? They would be scared to death if they knew Yi Qianxin's background. Why would their master need to climb up the social ladder of a small 8-star region? Did these family Ji people have to be so arrogant? Moreover, his master's current strength was clearly because something unexpected happened, which was why it dropped to the sacred expert level. When their master's strength was so great, these family Ji people couldn't even catch up. Who else could be like their master, who broke through to the level of a sage master when she was only a 14-year-old martial master? Not to mention the family Ji disciples from the 8-star region, even the disciples from the 7-star and 6-star regions couldn't catch up to their master's level of strength. These family Ji people felt so good about themselves. Who gave them the confidence to diss their master like this? I'm so angry. Yan Nyang was so angry that her hands were shaking. Her face was red, and her eyes were spitting fire. Chu Tianyi, listen to me. I don't care why you approached me and wanted to be with me. As long as you promise that you and the Chu family will respect our master, listen to her orders, and be her support, I will be with you. Otherwise, get out of my sight now and don't come near me again. Yan Nyang was shaking with anger because of the family Ji. In the past, Luo Qingtong had protected her and Chu Lingfeng through so many hardships and dangers. Now, the family Ji people were dissing her like this. Luo Qingtong, but she couldn't do anything about it. She didn't want to continue like this. Who said that her master was only a young girl from a low-level 9-star region with no strength and influence? Who said that she could only climb up the social ladder of the family Ji? In the future, she would be her master's support. She would be her master's stepping stone. As long as her mistress was willing, she could kneel at her mistress's feet at any time and allow her to step on her and rise to the top. At that time, she would like to see who would dare to scold Luo Qingtong and say that she had no strength and influence. Yan Nyang's eyes turned red while Chu Tianyi's eyes brightened. He didn't expect such a good thing to happen when he followed Luo Qingtong here. For the sake of Luo Qingtong, Yan Nyang was actually willing to be with him. Although this kind of promise was completely to give Luo Qingtong a certain weight and support, and didn't really mean that she had forgiven him. However, it was still better than Yan Nyang, who had always rejected him and ignored him. Chu Tianyi had been looking for an opportunity to help Luo Qingtong. What should he do if Yan Nyang ignored him after he finished helping her? His identity had been exposed, and Yan Nyang had suffered too much. She was not willing to open her heart and let him get close to her. No matter how much he did, she was always unwilling to believe him, and she didn't dare to believe him. But now, with Yan Nyang's words, he could always be with her. Chu Tianyi dared to guarantee that as long as he had the chance to stay by Yan Nyang's side, she would be moved by him sooner or later. Because he wasn't afraid that Yan Nyang didn't know his true feelings. He was only afraid that Yan Nyang wouldn't even give him a chance to express his true feelings. At that time, he would really have no other choice. With this thought, he agreed to Yan Nyang's words without hesitation. As for what the Chu family would think, and whether they were willing to accept the fact that a young girl had surrendered to a 9-star region, he was too lazy to care. Chapter 2968. While Yan Nyang and Chu Tianyi were whispering to each other, Luo Qingtong remained calm and unaffected by the family Ji's words. They were just a bunch of fools who were being played by Ji fighting. What was there to be concerned about? Luo Qingtong did not care about them at all. She looked at Ji Fighting and smiled. Young Master Ji, you really know how to change the topic. I'm asking if you have any intention of scheming against Ji Feiyu. But you said that everyone has selfish motives. Although that's true, having selfish motives and having the intention to harm others are two different things. But I don't blame you if you don't dare to swear. After all, you and Ji Feiyu are enemies. The position of young master that you have should have belonged to him. You don't like him and want to scheme against him. It's normal for you to make him suffer or even die. But, at this point, Luo Qingtong's smile deepened and became colder. If that's the case, then young Master Ji shouldn't pretend to be so dignified and righteous. Because your hypocritical and pretentious face makes me feel nauseous and disgusted. As soon as she spoke, Ji Fighting's expression froze. Then, he looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold and malicious gaze. The other party's words hit the nail on the head. Every single one of her words hit him where it hurt. But so what if that was the case? Unless she could prove her and Ji Feiyu's innocence in this family Ji, there was no way she could turn the tables. Miss Xiao Qi. Ji Fighting's expression was cold and malicious. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said softly with an icy gaze, "Your clever mouth is really sharp. But if you have the time to study my intentions, why don't you prove your and Ji Feiyu's innocence first? Otherwise, who knows if you and Ji Feiyu were prepared to prove your innocence? No matter what my intentions were, I did it for the good of the family Ji. But what about the two of you?" As he spoke, he looked disdainfully at Luo Qingtong and said with extreme contempt and disdain, "Of the two of you, one of you is shameless and hooked up with someone who is engaged. The other disregarded the engagement, the family, and has no sense of responsibility or family interests. Even if the two of you swear, why should I believe what you said?" At this point, Ji Fighting finally tore off his mask. He was too lazy to pretend to be humble and polite and gentle. So what if he schemed against Ji Feiyu and Luo Qingtong? He deliberately did not give them a chance to prove their innocence. But so what? Even if they proved it at that time, Ji Fighting could refute it by saying that they came prepared. In short, he was not going to let Ji Feiyu and the others walk out of the family Ji safely today. But now, Luo Xiaoqi had to be included. He wanted to see how this sharp-tongued and quick-witted girl would break out of this deadlock. Everyone was on their side. How could Luo Qingtong prove her innocence? She would not be able to walk out of the family Ji today. Ji Fighting snorted coldly and waved his hand, ordering people to close the door of the main courtyard of the ancestral hall. Chapter 2969. Ji Feiyu's pupils constricted. He rushed to Luo Qingtong's side and stood in front of her. "Ji Fighting, don't go too far." "As you wish." "Let her go immediately." Ji Feiyu regretted it. He should not have agreed to let Luo Qingtong come. Who would have thought that Ji Fighting and the others would be so impatient? Ji Feiyu originally thought that since his blood curse was beneficial to Luo Qingtong, it would be fine for her to come along. At most, he would announce that he could cultivate and gain the support of the elders. At that time, Ji Fighting and the others might not be able to do anything to them. However, no one expected that Ji Fighting and the others would immediately head to Star Alliance to bring him back after sending the news to Star Alliance. In the ancestral hall, they had already prepared a battle array, not giving him a chance to catch his breath at all. They swore to beat him to the bottom of the valley. That's right. Ji Fighting and the others had been in charge of the family Ji for some time. To them, the existence of the direct descendants of the family Ji was like a thorn in their throats. They would not be happy if they did not get rid of it. How could they not make good use of such a good opportunity given to them? This confrontation in the ancestral hall was not only aimed at him, but also at the entire direct descendants of the family Ji. It was no wonder that he called his father and mother back. If not for the fact that his mother's family was not weaker than the family Ji and was even more tyrannical, Ji Fighting and the others would not even have to confront him in the ancestral hall and directly convict him of the crime. Ji Feiyu's eyes were filled with sorrow and mockery as he thought of this. He looked at Ji Fighting and the others and said in a low voice, "I'm willing to plead guilty. Let her go." Ji Feiyu already knew that Ji Fighting and the others had come prepared and would not allow them to defend themselves. He was not going to waste his breath on them. He could let Ji Fighting and the others deal with him. They could cut his meridians and bleed him. They could even cut his flesh and return his bones. As long as they let Luo Qingtong go. He did not want her to be implicated by him. He was willing to listen to them. As Ji Feiyu's voice rang out, Sueyu and the others' sorrowful cries could also be heard. "Young master." Their hearts were filled with grief and they almost rushed towards Ji Feiyu and the others without a care in the world. However, they were restrained by the guards who waved their hands. Ji Miao Miao sneered coldly. "Ji Feiyu, it's too late for you to say that. When I asked you to plead guilty, didn't you say that you were innocent? What? Now that you can't prove it, you want to sacrifice yourself and let this be *tch go? You're so infatuated. It's a pity that since she came to our family Ji today, she can forget about leaving. Our family Ji is not a place where any Tom, Dick or Harry can come and go as they please. Not to mention, this woman bewitched you and caused Mo Zhuling to break off the engagement. This is a great humiliation. Our family Ji will never let her off." Ji Feiyu's expression was smug and cold as she said this. At this moment, Yan Niang and Chu Tianyi, who were standing behind Luo Qingtong, were ready to make their move. Especially Chu Tianyi. After getting Yan Niang's promise to be with him, he was full of energy. He was only waiting for Luo Qingtong to give the order and he would immediately massacre the family Ji. Chapter 2970. Just as he was about to make a move, Luo Qingtong's voice rang out faintly. "Miss Ji, you're probably deaf. I've already said that I can prove my innocence with Ji Feiyu. You probably think I'm joking? Ji Feiyu is standing in front of me because he's afraid that I'll embarrass you and make a move on me in anger. What? Why are you so impatient when you see it?" As she spoke, she placed her hand on Ji Feiyu's sleeve and comforted him by holding his wrist through his sleeve, telling him not to be anxious. Then, Luo Qingtong stepped forward and said to Qin Xiong and the others behind Ji Fighting, "Qin Xiong, Commander Qin. It's said that the news of my affair with Ji Feiyu and his annulment came from you. Can you come out and confront me? Let's confront. Who's afraid of you?" Qin Xiong and the others felt a little guilty. However, they thought that Luo Qingtong had no evidence to prove that she had nothing to do with Ji Feiyu, and Ji Fighting and the others were obviously biased towards them. No matter whether they were telling the truth or not, as long as they insisted that Luo Qingtong had something to do with Ji Feiyu and the others couldn't do anything to them. Luo Xiaoqi, this idiot, actually wanted to confront them. Did she think that she wasn't dying fast enough? Thinking of this, Qin Xiong and the others' guilty conscience immediately disappeared. Instead, they became inexplicably confident. They stood out from behind Ji Fighting and the others and swore that there was indeed some kind of secret relationship between Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. That was why Ji Feiyu repeatedly defended Luo Qingtong. During the proposal banquet, Mo Zhuling annulled the engagement. Who could prove that it had nothing to do with the affair between them? The group said so cunningly. Every word was a trap, avoiding the most important point. This made people suddenly think that Luo Qingtong was completely promiscuous, shameless, and wantonly seducing Luo Qingtong. They originally wanted to deal with Luo Qingtong and get rid of her for the family Ji, but in the end, they were stopped by Ji Feiyu. Otherwise, the family Ji wouldn't have suffered such a great loss. The group said so and suddenly, they burst into tears. Not only did they slander Luo Qingtong, but they also expressed their loyalty to Ji and the others. As they spoke, the family Ji's elders all glared at Luo Qingtong. "Luo Xiaoqi, what do you have to say?" As they spoke, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She said to the family Ji's people, "This is your family Ji's territory. How can I believe that they are speaking from the bottom of their hearts and not being coerced by your family G's people? After all, you can put on such a show in order to deal with the direct descendants of the family G. It's hard for me not to suspect that you did something to them to make them angry but not dare to say anything. In this case, even if I can prove my innocence, what can I do? Everything is still up to your family G, isn't it? Pfft. G Meow Meow sneered. This Luo Xiaoqi wasn't too stupid. She knew that everything was up to the family G. But she actually thought that Qin Xiong and the others were coerced by them, so they said that. This was simply ridiculous. But since she thought so and wanted to prove her innocence through Qin Xiong and the others, then she would fulfill her wish. After all, it was rare to see people who took the initiative to court death. Chapter 2971. With that thought in mind, Ji Miao Miao turned to Luo Qingtong and asked, "What do you want? Do you want them to go outside the family Ji and tell everyone about the affair between you and Ji Feiyu?" "I don't mind. I'm just afraid that you won't dare." As she said this, she looked at Ji Feiyu and the others with contempt and disdain. The latter and the others did not hesitate at all. "I dare. I'll listen to little seven." There was no hesitation on Ji Feiyu's face. He trusted Luo Qingtong completely. Although it was obvious that this was a dead end. As long as Luo Qingtong said that she could do it, he would believe her without hesitation. Ji Yuansheng and Li Shi did not hesitate at all. They would always put their son first. Moreover, things had already come to this point. Whether they agreed or not, it would not affect the family Ji's people to deal with them. Since that was the case, what was there to care about? When they agreed, Ji Fighting's brows furrowed. He looked at Ji Miao Miao and said disapprovingly, "Miao Miao." Just as he spoke, before he could say anything, Luo Qingtong's chuckling voice was heard. "What's wrong? Young Master Ji, are you feeling guilty? It seems that I don't need to prove my innocence. Because you don't dare to let them leave the family Ji's territory to publicize the affair between Ji Feiyu and me. If that's the case, how will you convict us?" Luo Qingtong said this and said to Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuansheng, "Let's go, Feiyu, Uncle Ji. Young Master Ji has already proven our innocence. We don't need to do anything more." As she said this, she immediately prepared to leave the family Ji's ancestral hall with Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuansheng, and the others. Hearing this, Ji Fighting's frown deepened instantly. He could not help but wonder if Luo Qingtong was deliberately provoking Ji Miao Miao to do the opposite and target him. The purpose was to make him suspicious so that he could stop this from happening. In this way, Luo Qingtong and the others would be able to leave calmly. As Ji Fighting thought this, his face suddenly froze. At this moment, Ji Miao Miao's angry voice rang out. "Luo, stop right there. Who says we're guilty and we don't dare to let them out?" As she said this, she immediately gritted her teeth and lowered her head. She whispered to Ji Fighting, "Big brother, don't be indecisive. This woman is very cunning. Just now, she used her schemes to make us suffer a few big losses. Are you really going to let Ji Feiyu and the others off? This is a rare opportunity's good opportunity. We can catch Uncle and the others in one go. Don't tell me you're out of your mind after scheming every day." As soon as she said this, Ji Fighting's conflicted expression immediately became even more serious. At this moment, Ji Yuankun spoke. "Let her prove her innocence." As he said this, he immediately looked at Ji Yuansheng with a smile and said, "Cousin, you know that I definitely don't want to wrongly accuse you. It's just that this matter concerns the family Ji's reputation in the future. I have to take it seriously. Since this woman says that she can prove her innocence with Feiyu, then I'll listen to her. However, if there's really no way to prove their innocence in the end, then cousin, don't blame us for offending you then. As for the gossip of others, I don't take it to heart." Chapter 2972. Ji Yuansheng sneered when he heard Ji Yuankun's words. It was indeed obvious to all. Ji Yuankuan's family was best at acting. Ji Yuanqing didn't argue with them. In any case, no one would believe him even if he refuted. They walked out of the family Ji's ancestral hall. They saw the family Ji's people come out in such a grandiose manner. Everyone on the continent where the family Ji was located felt very strange. The family Ji was one of the most powerful families in the Dongting region. The continent where they were located was naturally one of the more prosperous places in the Dongting region. There were many people from other families who came and went here. They either passed by on business or stayed here for a long time to do business with the family Ji. In short, when they saw the family Ji's people walk out, they were all very curious. When they found out the reason, they were immediately in an uproar. Not because of anything else, but because this was a rare piece of gossip. The family Ji's good-for-nothing son had his engagement broken off by someone from the 9-star region. Not only that, but he also had an affair with someone else, and now he had to prove his innocence. The crowd immediately followed the family Ji's people to the central arena where the main city was located. When they arrived, Ji Feiyu and the others stood on one side, while Ji Fighting and the others stood on the other side. The remaining elders stood in the middle and looked at Qin Xiong and the others who were made way by the crowd. All right. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She looked at Qin Xiong and the others and said, "Commander Qin, you can tell us what happened after you and Ji Feiyu went to the Star region. Don't be afraid. Now that the family Ji's people have taken you out of the family Ji's ancestral hall, no one can force you to say anything you don't know. Now, you can speak freely. Say everything you want to say." When Luo Qingtong spoke, Qin Xiong and the others looked at her as if they were looking at a fool. What kind of joke was this? What right did they have to be threatened by the family Ji? Those words were said by them to deal with Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. Since Luo Qingtong didn't want them to be coerced, they could speak freely. Could it be that she had been scared silly by such a hopeless situation and had started to talk nonsense? That was what everyone thought. After all, everyone thought that Luo Qingtong was bluffing when she asked them to clarify the facts in the family Ji. She wanted to take the opportunity to force Ji Fighting and the others to retreat. Because no one would want to expose such a thing in front of the world. Perhaps Luo Qingtong wanted to make use of Ji Feiyu and the others' mentality to force them to give up on dealing with Ji Feiyu and the others. But she didn't expect Ji Fighting and the others to agree. In this way, if she failed to do the opposite, she would have no other choice. But now, she was still talking nonsense in front of everyone. Thinking this, Qin Xiong and the others looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain and complacency, saying, "Okay, I'll do as you wish. Everyone, let me tell you what happened. After young master and I went to the Star Wilderness, we met Luo Xiaoqi. She seemed to be seriously injured and fell in the starry sky. We thought we had found a treasure, so we forced her to tell us the whereabouts of the treasure. The more Qin Xiong and the others spoke, the more panicked they became. This was because they realized that what they wanted to say was completely different from what they had said. What was going on? Chapter 2973. Stop, stop. Qin Xiong and the others looked indescribably panicked. They desperately tried to stop the words from coming out of their mouths and tried their best to twist the matter back to what they had already planned to say. But no matter how hard they tried, those words were simply out of their control and kept coming out of their mouths. Everyone's foreheads were covered with sweat and they almost couldn't control the trembling in their hearts. Their minds went blank and they covered their mouths in embarrassment. But at this time, Luo Qingtong's expression was calm and she smiled. "Why don't you continue? I'm very interested to hear what you think. And what was the situation at that time? Why did you slander me and Ji Feiyu like this?" As she spoke, Chu Tianyi beside her released an invisible pressure, enveloping Qin Xiong and the others. With the strength of the latter and the others, how could they be Chu Tianyi's opponents? Naturally, they had no resistance and let him do whatever he wanted. Everyone's hands that were about to cover their mouths froze in place and they couldn't exert any strength at all. And their mouths, which were originally prepared to shut up, couldn't be closed anymore. They just kept talking about the scene at that time. We saw that Luo Xiaoqi was not strong at that time and she spoke up for young master and caused us to be punished, so we decided to kill her. But we were stopped by young master. Qin Xiong said with an extremely ferocious and vicious expression on his face to match his words. In fact, he was already crying in his heart. He struggled and shouted with all his might and didn't want to continue talking. But he didn't know why, as if he was possessed, he couldn't stop talking at all. At this time, he finally understood what Luo Qingtong meant when she said, "Let them speak freely." He didn't want to talk anymore. He really didn't want to talk anymore. It's over, this Luo Xiaoqi, is she a monster? How did she do this? Despair filled the hearts of Qin Xiong and the others. However, their faces were still extremely ferocious and vicious as they said, "However, young master is protecting Luo Xiaoqi in every possible way, not allowing us to do anything to her. In the end, he used himself as a hostage to make us give up on hunting Luo Xiaoqi. Our hearts are indignant." Coincidentally, young master's engagement was annulled. The 7-star Fields Lu family came to propose to Mo Zhuling. When we saw that the Lu clan was powerful, we ran away. At first, we thought that young master wouldn't be able to come back alive, so we lied to the family. It just so happens that young master and the others are also waiting for a rare opportunity to make a move on young master and the others. So we went with the flow. When Qin Xiong said until here, he was already on the verge of fainting. He actually dared to say such words. It was over, even if Luo Xiaoqi didn't kill them now and let them leave, he could already foresee his miserable future. Young master and the rest wouldn't let him off. He actually said that the young master and the others wanted to deal with Ji Feiyu. Qin Xiong's body twitched for a while. At this time, Chu Tianyi released the pressure on them. The crowd immediately ran to Ji Fighting and the others, kneeling and kowtowing to them. "Young master, family head, you have to make a decision for us. I don't know what kind of witchcraft this Luo Xiaoqi used to make our hearts and mouths insincere." Chapter 2974. As soon as they said that, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded with a chuckle. "So, do you want me to prove the truth of your words in public?" Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Fighting and the others with a playful look. The latter and the others looked ugly. They didn't expect that Luo Qingtong had such a trick up her sleeve. They had no doubt that Qin Xiong and the others didn't want to say these words at all. After all, even if they were given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to slander them in front of so many people. Not to mention, they also overturned what they had said before. Weren't they digging their own graves? Unless Qin Xiong and the others were tired of living. Otherwise, they would never have dared to say so. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was the one who controlled them to say these words. Thinking so, the crowd suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong fiercely. Ji Miao Miao's voice was sharp. "Luo Xiaoqi. No wonder you had to change the location from the family Ji ancestral hall. So that's what you were thinking. I'm telling you, don't even think about it. Everyone here has eyes. They will never believe you." Ji Miao Miao looked angry. Her face was flushed red. Luo Qingtong, this B***TCH, could make Qin Xiong and the others speak according to her idea. They were going to be screwed by her. Fortunately, Qin Xiong and the others were alert. As soon as they recovered, they immediately begged for mercy and exposed Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, they would have to suffer this loss. However, she didn't know that Qin Xiong and the others were just talking nonsense to survive. Luo Qingtong controlled them to tell the truth. But they couldn't admit it. Otherwise, they would be finished. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong and the others wouldn't let them go. Even Ji Fighting and the others would never let them go. Therefore, the crowd could only risk their lives to slander Luo Qingtong. They wanted to make people think that she was controlling them to tell lies. And the actions of Qin Xiong and the others just now were indeed very strange. When the crowd heard their words, they immediately believed it. Upon hearing Ji Miao Miao's words, the family Ji's elders were furious. They looked at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu and said, "Ji Feiyu, you have really disappointed us. In order to cover up your affair with this woman, you actually disregarded the reputation of the family Ji and allowed her to do whatever she wanted and slander the members of the family Ji. What are your intentions? How dare an outsider ask you to do this to a member of our family Ji? You guys are really despicable. You don't deserve to be part of our family Ji." "That's right. Ji Yuankuan, you didn't teach your son well and even allowed him to slander our family Ji's reputation. Your family isn't anything good. From now on, our family Ji no longer has a direct descendant. All of you, get out of the Ji residence immediately. Guards." The group of family Ji's elders were filled with righteous indignation and deeply felt that they had been fooled. And Luo Qingtong's method of proving her innocence was simply throwing their family Ji's reputation to the ground for others to trample on. Therefore, they couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to punish Ji Feiyu and the others by force. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded faintly. "Originally, I didn't want to be so ruthless. But since you insist that my proof of innocence was a sham, then..." Yi Zichen looked at Yi Zichen. Chapter 2975. As she said this, her figure suddenly flashed and she appeared beside Ji Feitong. The latter's lips were still holding a gloating sneer. At this moment, he was looking at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu, waiting to see how they would be unlucky. A group of idiots. They actually dared to go against Ji Fighting and the others. They wouldn't even know how they died. Especially that Luo Xiaoqi. Although she had some ability, she could actually control Qin Xiong and the others to say things that they didn't want to say. But that was all there was to it. Didn't she see that Qin Xiong and the others immediately refuted what they said as soon as they returned to normal? This Luo Xiaoqi had some ability. No wonder she dared to come to the family Ji with Ji Feiyu and wanted to clarify the matter between them. But since Ji Fighting and the others wanted to deal with them, how could they give her a chance to clarify? It was useless for her to set the place in the central arena. Even if it was in front of so many people, the Ji family still wanted to convict them of their crimes. As he thought this, the smile on his lips was indescribably cold and proud. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared beside him. Before he could react, he heard Luo Qingtong say to him with a chuckle, "Young Master Feitong, you said that you liked me and were willing to help me at the last moment. I am very grateful. Please stand up and expose the sinister face of the family Ji's people. Young Master Feiyu and I are very grateful." Hearing her words, Ji Feitong felt a burst of confusion in his heart. What nonsense was this woman talking about? When did he say that he liked her and wanted to help her at the last moment? She was simply full of nonsense. Thinking this, Ji Feitong was about to angrily reprimand Luo Qingtong. In his opinion, Luo Qingtong didn't know what was good for her and rejected his idea of taking her as a concubine. Now, she came to him at this time. Could it be that she was afraid, so she wanted to beg him for mercy? She wanted him to beg Ji Fighting and the others to spare her life? However, it was too late. She had offended Ji Miao Miao, Ji Fighting, and the others for no reason. Ji Feitong didn't even dare to go against Ji Fighting and the others. Even if he dared, he would not go against them for Luo Qingtong. Therefore, he did not hesitate to berate Luo Qingtong. However, when he opened his mouth, he was shocked to find that the words he was about to say had changed. It became, "Good. Don't worry, I've long hated Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao's disgusting behavior. This time, I will definitely redress your grievances." What was going on? Ji Feitong was shocked. Luo Qingtong was smiling. She said to Ji Feitong, "Good, it's rare for young Master Feitong to be so righteous. Then, please expose Ji Fighting and the others' despicable behavior to the public." Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. Didn't the family G's people say that she had controlled Qin Xiong and the others to speak? Since they didn't want to hear the truth, then she would really control the family G's people to speak. Let's see how they would fall into eternal damnation. In fact, Luo Qingtong had already done something to Ji Feitong. She was just waiting for him to jump out at the critical moment to deal with Ji Fighting and the others. Originally, she didn't want to expose Ji Feitong in this arena. However, since the family Ji's people refused to admit that Qin Xiong and the others were speaking the truth, she could only force them to admit it. Chapter 2976. After hearing Ji Feitong's words, Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao immediately became furious. Ji Fighting, in particular, shouted at Ji Feitong coldly, "Ji Feitong, are you crazy?" After saying this, he thought that Ji Feitong might be under Luo Qingtong's control. He immediately shouted at her, "Luo Xiaoqi, what the hell are you doing? Haven't you learned your lesson from Qin Xiong and the others? How dare you control our family Ji's people to talk nonsense in the arena? Do you think we and everyone else here will believe you?" Ji Fighting was enraged. Luo Qingtong was simply courting death. How dare she do something to Ji Feitong? It was fine that she did something to Qin Xiong and the others. After all, they were the family Ji's servants. But now, Ji Feitong was clearly their family Ji's people. She was simply courting death. Ji Fighting's face was filled with rage. Ji Miao Miao's voice was extremely sharp. "Catch that B***TCH right now. Let her control our family Ji's people." Bullshit. As she said this, the family Ji's elders immediately prepared to take action. Because Luo Qingtong's people were Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing, and the others. Ordinary family Ji's guards would be restrained if they took action. It would be troublesome if they escaped. However, Luo Qingtong did not look anxious at all. It was as if she did not see that the family Ji's people were about to take action. She stood beside Ji Feitong and smiled at the people around her. "You family Ji's people are really strange. Since you accuse me of doing something to Qin Xiong and the others and controlling them to say things they shouldn't say, then I'll prove my innocence. Naturally, I'll prove my innocence and that I didn't do anything to them just now." What? Now that your family Ji's own people have come forward to expose you, you're panicking? There's no better way to describe you with a guilty conscience than with a guilty conscience. As for whether I'm controlling them or not, everything will be clear once young Master Feitong speaks. Young Master Feitong, please tell me all the dirty secrets of your family Ji. What's going on with Ji Feiyu going to the Star Desolate region to propose? How are Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao in the family Ji? Luo Qingtong's words made Ji Feitong's teeth itch. This B***TCH was simply trying to kill him. However, did she think that this would be enough to deal with Ji Fighting and the others? What a joke. So what if she controlled herself and told him the truth? Ji Fighting and the others could still insist that she was controlling herself to speak. And when he returned to normal, he would insist that she was controlling him. When that time came, she and Ji Feiyu would still have a dead end. This idiot actually thought that asking him to speak was different from asking Qin Xiong and the others to speak. Thinking this, Ji Feitong sneered viciously in his heart. However, just as he thought this, he heard a series of words uncontrollably coming out of his mouth. These words were all about the secrets of the family Ji and the extremely vicious things that Ji Fighting had asked him to do. He also heard about what Ji Miao Miao had done. In short, this was a huge revelation. Chapter 2977. Oh my God, Ji Fighting and his people are so vicious. Yes. Did you hear that? It turns out that the young master of the Yuan family, who ranked second in the Dongting region, was not killed in an attack during training. Instead, Ji Fighting pretended to be friends with him and lured him to a dangerous place before killing him. That's right. There's also that young Master Yu from the Nangong clan. His status, temperament, and potential are all above Ji Fighting's. Yet, he somehow went blind and became an idiot. It turned out that Ji fighting did something to his wound when he was injured, so that the poison in his body could not be removed. That's why he became like this. Oh my god, this is so vicious. It's hard to imagine. The family Nangong was very grateful to Ji fighting at that time, thinking that he saved young Master Yu safely. Otherwise, young Master Yu would have died. For this reason, the family Nangong funded Ji fighting with countless cultivation resources every year, and the family Nangong has always been the family Ji's staunchest ally. The family Ji's power and development over the years can't be separated from the family Nangong's help. Oh my god, if the family Nangong knew about this, he would be so angry that he would have a cerebral hemorrhage. Also, didn't you hear? Miss Sikong, who was unparalleled and beautiful in the Dongting Pavilion, was tricked by Ji Miao Miao into being naked in public. In the end, she was so ashamed and angry that she was forced to become a nun. Yes, and the young lady of the Qing family in the Dongting Pavilion, because she gently said that Ji Miao Miao was blocking her way, she held a grudge against her and secretly disfigured her face. Oh my god, these two siblings are like a snake and a scorpion, and a vicious woman. Everyone was speechless in their hearts. When they heard Ji Feitong's words, they had no doubt that Luo Qingtong was manipulating Ji Feitong to say these words. After all, these things had happened in the Dongting Pavilion for many years. Except for the people in the Dongting Pavilion, very few people knew about it. What Ji Feitong said and the details were very detailed. Not only that, some things were done by him personally, so he did not lack any evidence or details. According to his words, he could easily find out the truth of the matter. When the crowd heard this, it was clear at a glance. They already knew in their hearts whether these words were true or false. The family Ji's people really deserve it. Luo Xiaoqi was ready to stop after she made Qin Xiong and the others tell the truth. I didn't expect them to be so relentless. In the end, they even made Qin Xiong and the others accuse Luo Xiaoqi, saying that she controlled them to speak. Is this a slap in the face? That's right. With so many scandals being made public, Ji Fighting's reputation as a gentleman has completely collapsed. Oh my god, to think that I used to worship him. I must have been blind. Luo Mayan. And that Ji Miao Miao, who usually pretends to be a noble and inviolable legitimate daughter, turns out to be such a disgusting and vicious person. You really have a heart as vicious as snakes and scorpions. The other members of the family Ji are not good people either. Haven't you heard? They sent Ji Feiyu, the son of the first wife, to arrange a marriage, but secretly prepared to kill the other party. Now that the other party's engagement was broken off, they seized the opportunity to attack the first wife. They used to boast about being respectful to the first wife, but it was all a pretense. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.